I stood alone, in the center of the grand spire, floating in zero gravity. Thousands of alien eyes, tentacles, and glowing sensors stared at me from every direction. The chamber was huge, like a giant glass ball floating in space. Bright lights shone from every side, and soft music played in the background. But today, the music felt cold. My name is Captain Elias Kane. I used to command ships for Earth's Navy. Now I was the only human voice left in the Galactic Council. My hands shook a little, but I kept my back straight. I had practiced this moment many times in my mind. The High Arbiter floated forward. He was tall and thin, with shiny black shell like an insect. His many eyes blinked slowly as he spoke in perfect, galactic common tongue. After 3 long years of careful study, he announced, his voice loud and clear, the Galactic Council has reached its final decision. The chamber became completely silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. Humanity stands guilty of aggressive expansion, damage to protected ecosystems, and repeated refusal to follow galactic laws. Therefore, the planet known as Earth will receive the highest punishment allowed under our ancient rules. He paused for effect. I already knew what was coming, but my stomach still tightened. Earth shall be placed under the slow freeze protocol. Orbital mirrors will reflect sunlight away. Special chemicals will be released into the atmosphere. Over the next 50 years, the planet will turn into a ball of ice. Oceans will freeze solid. Continents will disappear under snow and frost. All surface life will end. This will serve as a clear warning to every young species in the galaxy. Do not defy the Council. Cheers and happy clicks filled the chamber. Some delegates clapped their wings. Others flashed bright colors of joy. A group of tall, blue-skinned beings laughed loudly. The High Arbiter turned his many eyes toward me. Does the human representative wish to speak before the sentence is carried out? I took a deep breath and floated forward a few meters. My voice sounded steady, even though my heart was racing. Yes, I do. The laughter slowly died down. Everyone watched me with curiosity. I looked around at the thousands of different faces, some with feathers, some with scales, some with no faces at all. You call Earth a primitive wet rock, I said. You think we are emotional and weak because we love our home. But you forget something important. Earth has survived ice ages before. Our people have lived through freezing winters that lasted thousands of years. We know cold. We know how to survive it. I paused and looked straight at the High Arbiter. You are not just sentencing a planet. You are sentencing an entire species that has already beaten nature's hardest tests. One day, you may remember these words. I hope that day comes with peace instead of regret. For a moment, no one spoke. Then soft laughter started again. The High Arbiter waved one thin arm. Your emotional speech is noted, human, but feelings cannot change science or law. The slow freeze will begin tomorrow at first light. Your people will have 1 standard week to remove any citizens who wish to leave. After that, the mirrors will activate. He leaned closer. His voice became softer, but still full of pride. Go home, Captain Kane. Tell your people to accept their place. The galaxy is old and wise. Young races like yours must learn humility. Security drones gently guided me toward the exit tunnel. As I floated away, I kept my head high. I did not look back at the cheering crowd. Inside the long tunnel, everything was quiet. Only the soft hum of the drones followed me. My small escort ship waited at the end of the passage. Just before I entered the airlock, a tiny message light blinked on my wrist device. It was from Earth Command, marked with the highest secret code. I opened it quickly. The message was short and clear. Operation Deep Winter is authorized. Begin the countdown. Trust the plan. We are ready. I closed my eyes for a second. A small smile touched my lips. The Council thought they had won. They believed they were teaching us a lesson, but they had no idea what we had prepared in secret. I stepped into my ship and sat in the pilot seat. The engines woke up with a gentle roar. As I left the Grand Spire behind, I looked back once through the window. The giant glass ball glowed brightly against the stars, full of celebrating aliens. They thought they were freezing a planet. We were turning their punishment into something much bigger. The journey back toward the edge of the solar system took many days. I spent the time reading old reports and thinking about my family. My wife and 2 children were already safe in underground shelters on Earth. They had said goodbye to me with brave smiles. "Come home soon, Dad," my daughter had whispered. Now I wondered if I would ever see them again outside of cryosleep. On the 5th day, I received another secret update. The first orbital mirrors were already moving into position around Earth. The Council worked fast when they wanted to show power. I opened a private channel to Earth Command. The face of Admiral Chen appeared on my screen. She looked tired, but determined. "Elias," she said quietly, "the Council thinks we are broken. Let them think that. Our scientists have finished the final tests. The new microbes are stable. The quantum cooling layers are in place. When the freeze comes, we will not fight it with fire. We will ride it." I nodded. "How long until the real change begins?" "Years," she answered, "maybe decades. But when Earth wakes up again, it will not be the same world they tried to kill. It will be stronger, wilder, ready." I looked out at the stars. Somewhere behind me, the Grand Spire was still celebrating. They believed they had ended humanity's story. But stories do not always end the way powerful people expect. I whispered to myself, "You wanted ice, Council. We will give you winter like you have never seen. And when spring comes, the whole galaxy will watch in amazement." The ship continued its silent journey through the dark. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of white snow, turning into green forests bursting with new life. The verdict had been read. The freeze was coming. But the real story, Earth's frozen revenge, had only just begun. I watched Earth from the quiet darkness of the Oort cloud. My stealth ship hung motionless among the frozen rocks and distant comets. The view through the main window was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Our blue planet, the only home we had ever known, was slowly turning white. My name is still Captain Elias Kane, but these days I felt more like a lonely witness to history. The Galactic Council had started their slow freeze protocol exactly as promised. Huge orbital mirrors, each the size of a small country, now floated around Earth. They caught the sun's light and reflected it away into empty space. At the same time, special ships released fine chemicals into the upper atmosphere. These chemicals trapped heat and helped the cold grow stronger. Day by day, the ice spread. First, the polar caps grew thicker. Then the northern seas began to freeze. White lines appeared along the edges of continents like slow-moving paint. From my hiding place far beyond Pluto, I could see the change clearly. Earth looked like a beautiful marble, slowly being covered in frost. I remembered the message from Earth Command. Operation Deep Winter is authorized. Now I understood what that meant. While the Council held their long trial, humanity had not been waiting helplessly. We had been planning. I opened the encrypted files on my screen and began to read the full story. Years earlier, our best scientists had guessed the Council might punish us. They knew the aliens feared Earth's wildlife and our rapid growth. So in secret bases deep underground and on the far side of the moon, teams worked day and night. They created something new, something the galaxy had never seen. They called it chronocryonics. The idea was simple but brilliant. Instead of fighting the coming cold, we would welcome it and turn it into a tool. Special microbes, stronger than any natural bacteria, were designed to survive extreme freezing. These tiny living things could slow down life itself. They could put plants, animals, and even whole ecosystems into a deep, controlled sleep. When the time was right, They would wake everything up again, but changed, improved, and much tougher. I watched a recorded message from Dr. Kane. Aisha Rahman, the lead scientist. Her eyes were bright with hope, even as she explained the danger. "We are not saving Earth the way it is," she said. "We are letting the freeze reshape it. The Council's own chemicals will mix with our microbes. The long cold will become a crucible. When the ice finally breaks, life will return faster and stronger than anyone expects. This is our quiet revenge." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold outside my ship. My family was part of this plan. My wife Lena and our 2 children had entered the great underground arcologies months ago. These massive shelters were built far below the surface, safe from the coming ice. There, millions of people now slept in special cryochambers. Their bodies were kept perfectly preserved while time passed above them. Seed vaults, animal gene banks, and libraries of human knowledge were stored beside them. Earth would not die. It would simply rest and grow stronger in the dark. I touched the small photo of my family that I kept on the control panel. My daughter's smile looked back at me. "We will see spring again, Dad," she had told me before she went to sleep. I hoped with all my heart that she was right. Back on the Council worlds, the news channels celebrated. I secretly listened to their broadcasts. Alien reporters spoke with happy voices. "The primitive death world has been tamed," one said. "The human homeworld will soon be a quiet ice ball. This proves that even the most stubborn young species must bow to galactic wisdom." They showed pictures of Earth turning white and laughed. They called it justice. They called it necessary. None of them suspected the truth. I felt anger rise in my chest, but I pushed it down. Anger would not help. Patience would. My ship received another update from the Hidden Human Network. The first stage of the plan was complete. Billions of people were now safe in cryosleep, or living in orbital stations and colonies on Mars and the Moon. Only a few thousand volunteers remained on the surface to monitor the changes. They lived in special heated shelters that would last until the deep cold arrived. The real work was happening beneath the ice. Our engineers had placed quantum cooling devices deep in the crust. These machines worked with the microbes to guide the freeze in careful patterns. Rivers were redirected. Underground lakes were protected. Vast networks of roots and seeds waited patiently below the growing ice sheets. I recorded a private message for the archives. "This is Captain Elias Kane, speaking from the edge of the solar system. The Council believes they have killed our world. They think we are defeated. But every child on Earth knows the story of winter turning into spring. We have survived ice ages before. This time, we are not just surviving. We are preparing something new." Days turned into weeks. I stayed in my hidden position, sending reports and receiving updates. Sometimes the loneliness felt heavy. I missed the sound of human voices and the warmth of real sunlight. But every new image from Earth gave me fresh strength. One morning, if you can call it morning in deep space, I saw something surprising. A Council probe ship had entered the solar system to take closer readings. It flew past my hiding place without noticing me. I watched it approach Earth. The probe sent back data for several hours. Then suddenly, its signal changed. Strange patterns appeared, small quantum flickers that the alien scientists would not understand. The probe moved closer to the thickening ice over the Atlantic. For a moment, the readings spiked wildly. Then the signal went silent. The Council ship never returned. I smiled quietly. The microbes were already working in ways the aliens could not predict. The cold was not simply killing the planet, it was changing it. As the years began to stretch ahead, I knew my role would change. I would not stay hidden forever. One day I would return to the Council worlds as an old man, carrying the memory of these long, silent years. I would walk among the aliens who had laughed at us and remember this moment. The long night had begun. Earth was falling asleep under a blanket of white. But deep below the ice, something new was dreaming, something stronger. Something that carried the stubborn heart of humanity and the wild spirit of our ancient world. The council had started a winter. We would finish it with a spring they would never forget. I turned off the main lights in my ship and looked out at the distant white dot that was Earth. In the quiet darkness, I whispered a promise to my sleeping family and to every human who had trusted the plan. We are not gone. We are waiting, and when we wake, the whole galaxy will see what happens when you try to freeze the human spirit. The stars continued their slow dance. The ice continued its steady spread. And somewhere, far below the growing frost, life held its breath, ready for the day the thaw would come. I grew older while Earth slept under its thick blanket of ice. 42 years had passed since the Galactic Council pronounced its verdict. My hair had turned gray, and small lines marked my face, but my eyes still carried the same fire I felt that day in the Grand Spire. I no longer lived on a stealth ship at the edge of the solar system. Instead, I moved quietly among the stars as a simple diplomat among the human diaspora. Life among the aliens was strange and often lonely. I lived on neutral worlds where a few thousand humans had settled after leaving Earth. We kept to ourselves in small communities, working honest jobs and speaking little about our frozen home. Most aliens still treated us with polite pity. They saw us as a once proud species that had learned its lesson. The humans tried to grow too fast, I often heard them say in markets and meeting halls. Now their world is a quiet ice ball. It is a good warning for everyone. I smiled and nodded, never arguing. Let them believe what they wanted. The truth was safer when kept hidden. One cool evening on the garden world of Lyrath, I sat with my old protégé, Dr. Mira Solari. She was a brilliant young scientist, born in one of the orbital habitats after the freeze began. Her parents had been among the last to leave Earth's surface. Mira had grown up hearing stories about the blue planet she had never seen with her own eyes. "Tell me again, Elias," she asked softly as we watched glowing flowers open under artificial moonlight. "Do you really believe Earth is still alive down there?" I looked at the stars above us. "I do not just believe it, Mira. I know it. The Council's own mirrors and chemicals gave our microbes exactly what they needed. The long cold is not killing our world. It is reshaping it. Every year that passes makes the life beneath the ice tougher and smarter." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with curiosity. "But the probes they send keep disappearing or returning with broken data. The Council says it is only natural decay, yet our secret readings show quantum patterns that should not exist on a dead planet." I smiled. "That is the point. The microbes have been evolving in the dark. They have mixed with the alien chemicals dropped from orbit. They have learned to use the cold as a shield and the ice as a womb. When the thaw comes, it will not be gentle. It will be a burst of new life the galaxy has never seen." Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke the question many young humans asked. "Some of our people want to give up. They say we should forget the old plan and simply join the galactic community. They are tired of waiting. What do you tell them?" I placed a hand on her shoulder. "I tell them the truth. We are not waiting because we are weak. We are waiting because we are patient. Earth has already survived 5 great extinctions in its long history. This freeze is just another test, and this time we help design the test ourselves. When our world wakes up, it will wake up stronger than any council world has ever been. That is our quiet strength." Over the years I became something of a quiet legend among the scattered humans. Children called me the man who stood in the spire. Older people asked me to speak at secret gatherings. I always gave the same message. Hold the hope. Keep the knowledge alive. The long night will end. But doubts still crept in during quiet moments. I missed my family terribly. My wife Lena and our children remained in cryosleep, far beneath Earth's frozen surface. I often wondered if they dreamed while they slept. Did they feel the slow passage of time? Would they recognize the world when they finally opened their eyes? Sometimes I looked at old photographs and felt a deep ache in my chest. The laughter of my daughter, the steady voice of my son, the warm smile of my wife, all of them frozen in time while I continued to age among the stars. I carried their pictures with me everywhere. They gave me strength on the hardest days. One year, the council sent a large scientific team to study the frozen Earth from a safe distance. I was invited as a cultural advisor because they wanted a human perspective on the dead world. I accepted without hesitation. We traveled in a comfortable council ship. The alien scientists were polite but condescending. They pointed at the white planet on the view screen and spoke with satisfied voices. "See how perfectly the slow freeze worked," one tall feathered delegate said. "No energy signatures, no movement, just peaceful ice. Humanity's home is now a perfect example of galactic order." I stood at the back of the observation deck and said nothing. Inside, I felt a spark of amusement. Their instruments could not see what was really happening. They could not detect the vast networks of life quietly rewriting themselves beneath kilometers of ice. They did not know that our engineered microbes had turned the Council's own punishment into fuel for rapid evolution. Later that night, Mira sent me a secret message from her hidden lab. New data had arrived through our private relays. The readings were astonishing. Temperature pockets deep underground were showing unexpected warmth. Complex organic patterns were forming in ways that suggested whole new ecosystems were being born in the dark. The ice was not a grave. It was a classroom. "The microbes are learning," Mira wrote. "They are incorporating the alien atmospheric particles. When the thaw begins, the new life will be resistant to many council weapons and technologies. Earth will not just survive. It will surprise everyone." I read her words twice and felt fresh hope rise in my heart. The silent years were not wasted. Every decade of cold was building something magnificent. As I grew older, I began to prepare for the next stage. I trained younger humans in diplomacy and patience. I kept careful records of every council meeting and every alien weakness I observed. I knew that one day I would stand again in the Grand Spire, not as a lonely representative begging for mercy, but as a witness to something far greater. The council had almost forgotten about us. In their schools and news channels, Earth was now just a story used to teach young aliens about obedience. "Do not be like the humans," they said. "Do not challenge the natural order." I smiled whenever I heard those words. They had no idea that the natural order was about to change. One quiet morning on a small trading station, I received the message I had waited decades to hear. It came through the most secret channel, coded so carefully that even the best council spies could not read it. The signal was simple. 3 short pulses, followed by a single image. A tiny green shoot pushing through white snow. The thaw was beginning. My hands trembled as I stared at the image. After all these silent years, the long winter was finally stirring. Deep beneath the ice, life was waking up. The microbes had done their work. The quantum systems were shifting. The planet was preparing to breathe again. I looked out the window at the distant stars and whispered to the sleeping Earth, "Hold on just a little longer, old friend. The galaxy is watching, and soon they will see what happens when you try to freeze a world that refuses to die." The silent years had tested us all. Many had grown tired. Some had lost hope. But a few of us, the ones who remembered, had kept the flame alive. Now the ice was cracking, and when it finally broke, the entire Galactic Council would stand astonished. I stood on the bridge of the Council flagship as an old man with gray hair and steady hands. After more than 40 years, I had been brought back to the edge of the solar system. The aliens called me a cultural advisor. But I knew the truth. They were uneasy. Strange readings had appeared from the direction of Earth, and they wanted a human face nearby to explain them. The observation deck was crowded with tall alien officers, scientists with multiple arms, and shimmering energy beings. Through the wide windows, we could see Earth clearly. What had once been a smooth white ball was now changing before our eyes. Cracks had appeared in the ice. At first they were small, thin lines spreading across the frozen oceans like spider webs. Then the cracks grew wider and deeper. Massive sheets of ice began to shift and break, with deep rumbling sounds that our sensors picked up even from orbit. Columns of steam rose into the thin atmosphere as hidden heat broke through. The High Commander of the fleet, a large creature with shining scales, turned to me with a worried expression. "Captain Kane, explain this. Your world was supposed to remain frozen for another 10 years. Why is the ice breaking so soon and in such patterns?" I kept my voice calm and respectful. "It is only natural change, Commander. Ice melts when conditions shift. Perhaps your mirrors are not working as perfectly as planned." He did not look convinced. Around us, alarms began to sound softly. More data poured in. Geothermal readings were rising far faster than anyone had expected. Vast areas under the ice were warming in perfect circles, as if guided by some intelligent design. I felt my heart beat faster, but I kept my face still. This was the moment we had waited for, through all the silent years. Operation Deep Winter was moving into its final stage. Suddenly, one of the scientists shouted, "Look at the surface!" We all turned to the main view screen. In the middle of what used to be the North Atlantic, a huge section of ice exploded upward, not from heat alone, but from something pushing from below. Green shoots burst through the broken ice, trees growing at impossible speed. In minutes, what had been a flat white plain became a forest of towering plants, with leaves that glowed softly in the weak sunlight. The aliens around me gasped. Some stepped back from the windows. "That is impossible," a feathered delegate whispered. "Nothing should grow that fast after decades of total freeze." I allowed myself a small smile. Earth life is full of surprises. More reports flooded the bridge. All across the planet, similar events were happening. In the south, giant flowers opened their petals and released clouds of sparkling pollen. Along the equator, new rivers broke free from melting ice and flowed with bright, clear water. Animals that no one had ever seen before stepped out onto the fresh ground, creatures with thick fur, powerful legs, and eyes that shone with sharp intelligence. The Council fleet grew nervous. Warships moved into defensive positions. The commander ordered more probes sent down to the surface. "Bring back samples," he commanded. "We must understand what is happening." I watched quietly as 3 heavy probes descended toward the new forests. They landed smoothly on a green plain. For a few moments, everything seemed normal. Then the ground itself moved. Thick vines, thick as starship cables, rose from the soil and wrapped around the probes. The metal twisted and bent. One probe sent back a final image of its camera, being covered by glowing blue moss before the signal died. The bridge became very quiet. The commander turned to me again, his scales flashing with anger. "This is not natural, human. Your people have done something to the planet. Explain yourself." I met his gaze without fear. "We did not fight your freeze, Commander. We accepted it. Your own chemicals mixed with our world's life. The long cold became a teacher. What you see now is Earth waking up, stronger than before." Alarms blared louder. A swarm of small flying creatures rose from the new forests and headed straight toward the fleet. They looked like insects, but moved with perfect coordination. They flowed around the nearest warship like a living cloud. Engines began to fail as the tiny creatures slipped into vents and covered sensors. The ship drifted helplessly. "Fire," the commander ordered. Energy weapons lit up the darkness, but the swarm simply parted and reformed. Where the beams struck the surface, new plants grew even faster, turning the destroyed areas into fresh green growth within minutes. I felt both awe and pride. The microbes had done their work perfectly. They had created a biosphere that healed itself almost instantly and turned every attack into fuel for more life. Mira's voice came through my private earpiece. She was watching from a hidden human station. Elias, the new ecosystems are beyond anything we dreamed. The life forms are resistant to most known energy weapons. Some release compounds that interfere with alien technology. Earth is not just waking, it is announcing itself. Below us, the planet continued its rapid transformation. Entire mountain ranges that had been buried under ice now stood tall and green. Bioluminescent rivers flowed across the land, lighting up the night side of Earth with soft, beautiful colors. Herds of large animals moved across the plains, their bodies adapted to the new world with natural armor and swift speed. The Council fleet was in chaos. Ships fired wildly, but every strike only helped the planet grow stronger. Vines reached upward from the surface, stretching thousands of meters into the sky and brushing against the lowest warships. One smaller ship was gently pulled downward until it disappeared into a thick canopy of trees. The commander looked at me with wide eyes. "What have you done?" I spoke clearly so everyone on the bridge could hear. "We turned your punishment into our greatest gift. You tried to kill our home with ice. Instead, you helped us create a new Earth, one that remembers every year of cold and every insult from this council. Life here has always been tough. Now it is tougher than anything in your records." A bright flash caught our attention. Across the entire planet, a single massive bloom of light appeared. It started in the middle of the old Pacific and spread outward in a perfect wave. Millions of glowing flowers opened at once, sending a gentle but powerful energy pulse into space. The pulse washed over the fleet. Weapons went silent. Engines slowed. No one was hurt, but every council ship suddenly lost control. The aliens stood frozen in shock. I stepped forward to the main window and looked down at the reborn world. Earth shone with colors I had never seen. Deep greens, bright blues, and shimmering golds. It looked alive in a way that no council world had ever been. My voice was soft but full of wonder. She is waking up. After all these silent years, my family and billions of others will soon open their eyes to a better world, a stronger world. The commander finally found his voice. This cannot be allowed. We must stop it." I turned to him with calm eyes. "You cannot stop life, Commander. You tried once. Look at the result." Deep inside, I felt tears of joy. The thaw had come. The long wait was ending. Earth had not simply survived. It had become something new and magnificent. And the entire Galactic Council was watching it happen in complete astonishment. I stood once more in the center of the grand spire. But this time, everything felt different. The huge glass chamber no longer felt cold and mocking. Instead, it felt alive with nervous energy. Thousands of alien delegates floated in zero gravity, their eyes, tentacles, and glowing sensors fixed on me. The soft music had stopped. Only the low hum of worried whispers filled the air. My name is Captain Elias Kane. I was an old man now, with white hair and a back that ached from years among the stars. But my voice was still strong. I had returned to this place after watching Earth wake from its long sleep. The Council had called an emergency session. They had no choice. The giant view screen behind me showed live images of Earth. The planet glowed with vibrant life. Vast forests covered the continents. Rivers sparkled like jewels. Clouds of glowing pollen drifted through the atmosphere. New mountains stood tall and green. It was no longer the quiet ice ball they had tried to create. It was a world bursting with energy and strength. The High Arbiter floated forward. His black shell looked duller than before, and his many eyes blinked rapidly. The proud tone from years ago was gone. "Captain Kane," he said, his voice tight, "the Galactic Council demands an explanation. Your homeworld was sentenced to a controlled freeze. Instead, it has become this. Our fleet was disabled without a single shot from human weapons. Entire ships were trapped by living vines. Our technology failed in the presence of your new biosphere. What have you done?" I looked slowly around the chamber. No one laughed now. No one cheered. The same delegates who had celebrated my punishment decades earlier now watched me with wide eyes and nervous movements. I took a deep breath and began to speak in clear, simple words. You wanted to teach us a lesson with eternal winter. You sent your mirrors and chemicals to turn Earth into a dead ball of ice. You believed we would break. You believed a young species like humanity would finally learn humility. Instead, we accepted the cold. While you celebrated, our scientists worked in secret. We created microbes that could sleep through the deepest freeze and wake stronger than before. Your own chemicals mixed with ours. The long night became our teacher. Every year under the ice made life tougher, smarter, and more alive. A soft murmur spread through the crowd. I continued, my voice growing warmer with pride. Today, Earth has awakened. The new forests heal themselves in hours. The animals move with speed and intelligence never seen before. Even the air carries tiny helpers that protect our world and gently confuse technology that tries to harm it. We did not fight you with guns or ships. We fought you with life itself. I stepped forward a little, looking directly at the High Arbiter. You called Earth a primitive wet rock. You laughed at our love for our home. But Earth has already survived 5 great extinctions. It has survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. This time, we helped guide the change. The freeze you forced upon us became the crucible that forged a stronger planet. One of the tall blue-skinned delegates raised a trembling hand. But our warships, they were pulled down by vines. Our crews are safe, yet they could do nothing. How is this possible? I smiled gently. Because life on Earth learned from you. It learned to turn every attack into growth. The energy from your weapons fed the plants. The cold you gave us became stored power for the thaw. What you see now is not revenge through destruction. It is revenge through renewal. Earth did not die. It evolved. The chamber grew quieter. Many aliens looked at the view screen with a mix of fear and wonder. The planet continued to change even as we spoke. A new bloom of light spread across one continent, sending another soft energy pulse into space. It was beautiful, like a living rainbow. I felt a deep sense of peace. In hidden shelters far below Earth's surface, my family and billions of others were waking from cryosleep. My wife Lena, my daughter, and my son would soon step out into warm sunlight and see green fields instead of ice. They would breathe fresh air, filled with the scent of new flowers. The thought brought tears to my eyes, but I held them back. A younger alien scientist floated closer. Her voice was soft and curious. Captain Kane, will this new Earth remain dangerous to the rest of the galaxy? I shook my head. Earth has always been a place of strong life. Now it is stronger. But we do not seek war. We only ask for respect. The Council tried to end our story with ice. We turned that ice into the beginning of a new chapter. If you leave us in peace, we will share what we have learned. If you try to harm us again, you will face a world that heals faster than you can wound it. The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke with heavy words. The Galactic Council acknowledges the unexpected outcome. The slow freeze protocol has been cancelled. All remaining mirrors will be removed immediately. We offer formal apologies for underestimating the resilience of your species and your world. A ripple of surprise moved through the delegates. Some looked shocked. Others simply stared at the glowing planet on the screen. I stood taller, even with my old bones. My voice carried clearly across the entire chamber. Many years ago, I stood here alone while you celebrated our punishment. I told you then that you were not just sentencing a planet. You were challenging a species that knows how to survive hard times. Today, Earth sends her regards. I turned and looked straight at the view screen. My next words came from the heart. You wanted to teach us humility with winter. We learned the lesson well. We learned patience. We learned adaptation. We learned that even the coldest night ends with a new dawn. Now the whole galaxy can see what happens when you try to freeze the human spirit. A soft applause started among a few human observers in the back. Then, slowly, some alien delegates joined in, not with cheers of victory, but with respectful tapping and glowing colors of acknowledgement. I felt the weight of decades lift from my shoulders. The long wait was over. The silent years, the careful planning, the quiet hope, all of it had led to this moment. As the session ended, I floated toward the exit with steady steps. Young Mira waited for me at the tunnel entrance. She had tears in her eyes. "You did it, Elias," she whispered. "They are astonished. The whole council is talking about Earth's frozen revenge." I placed a hand on her shoulder and smiled. "We all did it. Every scientist who worked in secret, every family that trusted the plan, every person who kept hope alive during the long night. This is not my victory. This is Earth's victory." Later that night, I stood alone on an observation platform, looking toward the solar system. Earth shone like a bright jewel among the stars, greener and more alive than ever before. I imagined my family stepping out into the sunlight, breathing fresh air and smiling at the new world around them. A quiet laugh escaped my lips. The council had tried to write the end of our story. Instead, they had helped us begin a greater one. I whispered to the distant planet, "Thank you for waiting, old friend. Thank you for waking up stronger. The galaxy will never forget this day." The stars continued their peaceful dance. The grand spire behind me buzzed with new conversations and careful plans, but my heart was light. Earth had endured the freeze. Earth had turned punishment into power. And Earth's frozen revenge had left the entire Galactic Council astonished.